So when I met Teddy, they were doing Keith Sweat next door. And there was this one dude playing the shit out of the Hammond organ. And I said, yo, man, I said, you're a bad motherfucker, man. He goes, yo, you're the shit. So I brought my guitar out and I started playing with him. It was Teddy.
Wow.
I didn't know. I said, he goes, so Tony goes, do you know who that is? I said, no. Because that's Teddy Riley. He goes, yeah, man, he's amazing. No, that's Teddy Riley. I wanna this. I said, really? Wow. So I was totally oblivious to it. And he loved that because I treated him like a normal person.
Yeah.
So that's my introduction to Teddy. The next time I met up with Teddy was, I heard the I Don't Want to Fall in Love remix. And I came running in. He goes, yo, that shit's crazy. And it was Teddy in there. He said, John, you like this? I said, man, this thing is amazing. This shit's dope. When's this coming out? And he passed me off to Dad. He goes, I got another copy. Why don't you listen to that for a while? 2.5, 3 weeks. So what happened was, I was doing a practice session. And around the same time that Teddy was working with the next Keith Sweat record. And I'm doing this mix and all like that. And they said, runner for Studio B, I think. It was Studio B I think it was Studio A or Studio B. I think it was Studio A or Studio 1. I ran in there and said, yo, what's going on? He goes, we need something from Carnegie Deli. And Teddy says, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm the runner for tonight, so I gotta go. He goes, runner? Because I thought you were in the studio. He goes, yeah, I'm in the studio. He goes, but I'm doing a practice session. He goes, you're doing a practice session? So the next thing I ran to Carnegie Deli. Nobody is in Studio 1, and I dropped all the stuff because they want you in Studio 2. I said, oh shit, Studio B. I said, oh shit. Teddy was like this, and he hit play, and he turned and goes, that's what I want. And it was the mix that I was doing, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was just practicing.
Oh.
And that led me to do the Let's Chill session, which was supposed to be on the New Jack Swing soundtrack that Keith Sweat was supposed to do. Unfortunately, I think Teddy got the phone call that following week or following 2 weeks that he had to do the Michael Jackson stuff. He went to soundtracks, and then he went to California right afterwards, from what I heard. And I didn't see Teddy till that following May. And then Teddy came back. He said, look, I want you to work with me, because Dave Way was leaving at that time. And Dave, I had to fill in some big shoes, man. I still try to fill in those big shoes. Dave Way is amazing to me. He's probably one of the most amazing mixers I've ever met.
Yeah, I think as I said, so a lot of us who know a lot of some of the Teddy stuff would know that Dave Way was with him with Kissing Game and a lot of the early stuff.
He wrote the first verse for Kissing Game.
Yeah. So we've seen him. So he was doing the mixing and engineering alongside Teddy with in those late 80s, early 90s. Yes.
And from what I heard, he picked up Dave Way the same way he picked me up.
Wow.
Believe it or not. And it was Dave Way who said, yo, I think you should pick up Jean Marie. He seems like a good guy.
Even though you still were still new to the whole thing,
they didn't see it that way. They just saw something different. And I can honestly say I was very blessed.
Wow.
That I didn't go by the rules.
But did you know how to do any of the mixing? Did you know how the calls? I mean, it's a big studio. Did you know?
Well, see, this is the thing. When Tony Maserati called me stealing the Pleasure Principle, we had the reels of Pleasure Principle in the tape locker, and he got in my ass saying, "Did you make a copy of this?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "No, you didn't. Stop lying." And he goes, "Well, let me hear it now. Since you got it up, let me hear it now." And he heard, he goes, "Do you know what the hell you're doing?" I said, "No." He goes, "What did you?" I'm trying to understand. He goes, "All right, so all this is coming from the console?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You didn't use the pull tag?" I said, "Well, I don't know how to use it yet." And he said, "Dude, this is amazing. Keep at it, but make a backup reel out of anything that you do." I said, "Okay, I will." He said, "Bro, this is really amazing." He goes, "Where's your reverb returning?" I said, "Down here on the faders." He goes, I never showed you that. I said, no, I just didn't know how to patch it in here because I'm trying to figure out the patch bay. He goes, wait a minute. He goes, we've been working 3 weeks together. Didn't I show you patch bay? He goes, yeah, but I was trying to do something different. He goes, whatever you did was great.
Wow.
And then he said, what are you doing here? I said, well, if I use the snare as an effect, I can bring it up on the console and re-EQ it. And that's where people started knowing me for the bussing, the parallel compression, and all of that. I was pretty much like the king of that.
Wow.
That started doing that. And if you talk to Dave Pensato, he would tell you that I was the king of the side compression, inline compression, parallel compression.
So you had just a knack for, like, especially because you didn't get taught the conventional way. You just try to figure out yourself. And
yep. And I watched this guy named Mike Barbiero do it one time. And I thought it was the most amazing drum sound I ever heard.
Wow. And so Teddy goes off, because we've heard his story about, going off to California. Michael Jackson's in Japan or somewhere, and then, while he's trying to come up with stuff, and he talks about how he had to rent out multiple studios from Q-Tip just to do mixes of both Jane Child and Keith Sweat and some of the Michael stuff. Were you in that same studio, or were you in a
No. Teddy, from what I remember, Teddy was doing all the Jane Child stuff at Soundtracks.
Okay.
And the Johnny Kemp stuff was done at Soundtracks. The stuff that he did for Michael, the demo stuff, was done, I believe, at Soundtracks. And he went out to LA, and the next thing you know is from what rumors had it to me, this is years, I think a year or two after I started working with Teddy, they locked him into Larrabee. But he had all the rooms at Larrabee. He had all the rooms at Studio One, which was, I think, 2, I believe, or 2, I think. And it was amazing. He was all over LA doing that Michael record. He was all over the place.
Well, so where were you then? So what were you up to during that time? So what, after seeing you, then he goes to see Michael. What were you up to then? I started assisting more. And what happened was, when Teddy came back, I think I'm going to be assisting Dave Way. It turns out that he said Luke Eben, who's an amazing producer, he was the studio manager at the time, but an amazing producer. He did a lot of stuff for Bon Jovi. Great guy. He said, no, Jean, he wants you to engineer. I said, get the fuck out of here. I ain't gonna engineer this shit. I don't know what I'm doing. And lo and behold, I became the engineer. I was nervous as hell. Ted didn't show up the first day, but Wayne Cobham did. And Wayne Cobham is Billy Cobham's brother. And Wayne was the tech for Teddy at that time. And he says, you're Jean-Marie, right? He goes, yeah. He goes, how do you like working here? I said, I like it. It's great. Gives me opportunity. I'm still learning. He goes, Teddy's going to ask you to work with him. I said, what? He goes, Teddy Riley is going to talk to you, and he's going to try to steal you from me. And which he did. The next day he said, basically he came back for 1-2 days to take me. And after I said yes, he booked out he took all his stuff out and went to Soundtracks. He just booked out the studio to take me out. Wow. That was crazy. And I started working at Soundtracks, and that was it. So,
and the rest is history.
So what about Dave Way then? Because did you know Dave Way prior to Teddy calling you out? Did you know him well and stuff?
I only met him when I was working with Teddy.
Okay.
And I got along with him really, really well. He's such an amazing individual. He has a very unique ear. An amazing ear. He's by far probably one of my heroes in my whole landscape of my career, because he was proficient enough as a musician, but also as a songwriter. He was a big Beatles fan. Big Beatles fan.
Yeah. So what was the first thing that so here you are as an assistant, and next minute you've been called in by a legendary producer to come start working with him, was there a sense of confidence or nerves, or what was going? How was it for you?
It was the oh shit moment.
Okay.
Really. And the first thing that we did was the Dog Me Out remix.
Okay, so
so we did the Dog Me Out remix, and there was a guy named Frank Fossenkemper. There was a guy that was also working with Teddy, and I thought he was going to get the job, not me. It turned out that Teddy took me, and still. Mike Fossenkemper, really good mixer, really good touch, and it was at the same time. And we did the Dog Me Out remix, and the next thing we did Let's Stay Together remix. And I'm thinking that whatever, it's gonna only be for a time being because he's going on tour. So Teddy said, hey, look, man, I want you to come with me because we're gonna be doing the Michael Jackson stuff, and I want you to be a part of it. So during the day, you're gonna be working, we're gonna be working on Guy, and during the night, we're gonna be working on Michael stuff.
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, in Japan, we got no sleep whatsoever. I was hurting really bad. I said, okay, what the hell do you want me to do on the Guy tour? He says, I want you to have fun. I want you to do the stuff. I want you to do all my sound. Basically, he made a job for me. So what I was doing on the live shows, I was doing drops. And Teddy would be laughing on stage because I'm doing like live mixes. And he started shaking his head like, that's it. I pushed the 808 so loud. Oh, it was ridiculous. It was so much fun. But then, we had rehearsals pretty much every single day. Teddy was very diligent. Teddy was not messing around. He has to have the sound right. The dancers had to be right. The musicians had to be right. And these were these top musicians, mostly from the church. The top musicians. We went through 3 drummers.
Wow.
Oh yeah. Jeff, I forgot Jeff's last name, but Jeff was the drummer originally. And then there was Vaughn, I think, was the other drummer. But the drummer that was the guy was Gerald Haywood. He was the production coordinator and assistant on the Guy tour. The most amazing drummer that you ever hear.
Wow.
Big Steve Gadd fan. He played his kick drum like a hi-hat pattern. That's how bad he was. I said, Teddy, why the hell wasn't he on the original drummer? He said, I didn't know. And that was it. He worked his way in there though. Everybody wanted Gerald. He was amazing.
So
pain in the butt, but he was amazing.
What is it that's so? I guess for some of us who don't know the technical side, what exactly was your role then when it comes to when you were on the Dog Me Out and the Let's Chill remix? What were you actually doing?
Mixing. Mixing and recording and mixing at the same time, and basically learning.
So you
really learning.
You knew the consoles well enough to do it?
Hell no. Not even, I just, like I said, I was barely there a year.
So was he looking for a prodigy then, or what was he? Was a white?
He liked the way he liked me as a person, but he also liked that I was busting my ass, and he liked the fact that what he was getting at, like, because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, and which made it even better because we would always beat each other's mixes out. Like he would try to one up me, and I would try to one up him. Me and him were mixing together. So there's so much to this, man. There's so much to this. There's so much background. It's unbelievable. So when Teddy picked me up, Teddy had a specific sound, and I catered to that sound real quick because it came off the SSL, not off the outboard gear. We didn't start using outboard gear till I think after the Bobby record.
Wow.
So a lot of stuff came off that console. A lot of the Michael stuff, that's a whole different story. That was
okay.
That was
a whole
different story.
No, we'll get there. But so I guess for those of us just so that what's really fascinating about your story is the fact that we've thought like Bruce Swedien, you knew your stuff, and he's like getting another expert to come join him, not realizing that he's like, okay, you don't know, I'm going to be doing the stuff, I'm going to teach you what I'm doing. But you said there was something in you that he just thought, if I gave him some of those tools, he could probably take it to another level?
I think what he did was I was unconventional.
Okay.
Because Teddy never really knew how to do the console. He figured it out on his own, just like how I did. And that's why that's why our tone, our mixing tones from 1991 till about 1994, 95, you can hear the transition of tones.
Yeah. So you're doing the Dog Me Out, you're doing the Let's Chill, you're in Japan, and people like us are thinking, do you have an apartment? Do you have to, still pay your rent? Did you get a contract to make sure you're getting paid? Did you just get a passport?
That's so funny. It was so funny. I just turned around 21, 22 at that time, and I was about to get an apartment, but I didn't. I said, I talked to my mom. I said, look, I'm gonna stay at the house for a little bit, and she said, no problem. While I was going through school, I was doing my assistant stuff. I was really lucky that I stayed with my parents.
Okay.
As soon as I went to Japan, that was it. I stayed with Teddy pretty much almost 6-7 months before I got my apartment down in Virginia Beach. We were staying in hotels. I was living in hotels for like almost 6 months of my first career.
Because you
my career.
Doing the tours and stuff?
I did.
Okay.
It was fun. It was awesome.
So as you were out on tour, were you picking up and learning and like, okay, now I've got this stuff, and it was coming to you?
Nope.
Okay.
I just went in there, and when we were doing the Dog Me Out remix, I wanted the kick drum to like really hit you underneath the gut rather than in your gut. So I was doing some other stuff underneath it. And Mike Fossenkemper came up with this thing from, this thing was like rotating some stuff. It was really, really cool. He brought that into the fold on that Dog Me Out remix. But I was coming with the ones and twos and the vocals being in front of your face.
Wow.
And that's what Teddy really liked. Also, I didn't use a lot of reverb because I hated it.
Wow. So yeah, go ahead.
At that time, everybody was using so much fucking reverb. It was, you can drown in it. You needed a life preserver. It was so much reverb.
And it is interesting because I think those of us who know his work can always tell that his sounds are very distinctive. Either, I know with Dave Way, there was the way the drums used to snare, you could tell that was like a Do Me Right or Kissing Game or you could go through a lot of things, but you could hear the Teddy sort of, there's a way it sounded like, yeah, this is Teddy, because there was a lot of imitation, but you could hear his style being very distinct and stuff.
Very much so. But you also can understand is how much I had to fill in those Dave Way shoes. It was tough because Dave had Dave had a better acknowledgement of it than I did. He was more of an assistant. He was an assistant longer than I was.
Yeah. So then you're working on the micro stuff. What were you working? I mean, what were you guys? What was the tracks you can remember those early days?
I wasn't even supposed to be on the Michael Jackson stuff.
Oh, but in Japan, I thought he said, he was basically doing touch-ups.
The songs were already picked.
Okay.
The songs were already picked. He was just adding more production onto it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was, like I said, but I wasn't even supposed to be on the Michael Jackson record.
Okay. So what happened then?
We came back from Japan. Teddy said, let's go to Larrabee. I want to introduce you to Bruce. I said, okay, great. He said, look, Sean.
Did you know who Bruce Swedien was?
Oh, yeah, I knew who Bruce was because I was a big Quincy Jones fan.
Okay.
And when you went to audio engineering school, you knew a lot of people that you admire. And I knew Bruce's work prior to the Michael stuff, more the Quincy stuff that I knew of because I was a big Quincy Jones fan growing up when I was a kid, as a musician, because I was, even though I was into like the rock metal stuff and the hip hop stuff, I was also into jazz fusion. And I knew all of the Quincy stuff when I was a kid because of the people I used to hang out with. They were all musicians. They were all jazz guys. And my brother was a big jazz fan. So Quincy was instilled with us, but I was mostly into the soundtracks that Quincy was doing. Like Pawnbroker was one of my favorite soundtracks. Ironside was one of my favorite soundtracks. I wouldn't say The Wiz was one of my favorite soundtracks, even though it's iconic. I really liked what he did for the Bill Cosby Show back in the 70s. I really liked what he did with Sanford and Son back in the 70s. And I found out in my early teen years that was Quincy Jones, and I had a lot of respect for him. The Dude came out in '87. I was so invested in that record. What a beautifully mixed and mastered record, and that was Bruce Swedien.
Okay.
And I really loved what Bruce did. And then, you know, when I heard Stomp, everybody take it to the top, we're going on Stomp. That was amazing. That was Bruce Swedien.
Wow.
And that was Quincy Jones's production.
And so he says, I'm going to take you to see him. What are you thinking?
I'm just waiting to meet the man. I'm waiting to meet the man. He goes, listen, Bruce was so lovely. I love Bruce so much that there's a couple people. So that was, I believe it was either Thursday or Wednesday, if my memory serves me correct. I got pretty good information on some stuff that, you know, I got a pretty good memory. Yeah. We came in, we went in that night. Now, mind you, Teddy said, look, you're going to be my tech. You're not going to be my assistant, so you can get, you know, some money from the label because you're going to be working with me. I said, okay, no problem. So I didn't think I was ever going to be on the Michael record. So I met Bruce, and he said, Bruce, this is my new engineer, Jean-Marie. He goes, oh, and he started talking, and he's Swedish, and I told him I was Croatian, and we're listening to the stuff, and stuff sounds amazing. Now, mind you, coming from New York, I've never heard speakers sound like this. When I was in Larry, I was like, oh my God, I'm home. This is what a studio is supposed to sound like.
Wow.
See, now mind you, we didn't go down to Virginia Beach yet. We went from New York to Japan to California. And the first thing I seen when I got to California was Larrabee Studios. And I heard that, I said, this is what a studio is supposed to sound like. This is what I fell in love with. Right there when Bruce was playing it. And Bruce knew I was Bruce knew I was coming. He introduced himself, whatever have you. And then he goes, would you like to listen to some things? Said, yeah. So I'm like, and Teddy always loved, because I was always head nodding, always vibing, long hair. All of a sudden I felt this figure on the side of me, dancing alongside of me. It was Michael.
You're kidding me.
I said, oh shit, right? I said, okay, hey, how you doing, brother? You know what I'm saying? I'm very friendly that way. Everybody knows me. But inside, I'm like thinking, it's freaking Michael Jackson. I was more excited to meet Bruce than I was meant to see Michael. That's how it was. So we introduced ourselves, you know, Mike, sweetest man ever. God, he was the sweetest man that you ever want to meet in your life. So loving, so giving, so intelligent, highly intelligent. So anyway, I met Bruce. He goes, well, I'll see you tomorrow. And at that time, we never really started work at 10 o'clock in the morning. With the Michael gigs, we started at 10 o'clock in the morning. That was because Bruce started at 10. He never worked past that certain point.
Okay.
But we started at 10 o'clock in the morning. I go in there, and now mind you, I'm not on the session as an engineer or a mixer yet, right? So we brought our song up called Jam because Teddy had to do some touch-ups on it, right? And at that time, the procedure was, you know, we had a system going in New York that Teddy particularly liked. Now, mind you, I'm only about a month working in with Teddy. So what Teddy loved about me when I used to do my slave reels, which is a safety reel, was we put the kicks on one track, the snare on another track, stereo percussions, bass, stereo keys, right? Stereo background vocals and a lead vocal, right? So I would mix that down, then bounce it down to eight, I think was that 12 tracks, maybe 10 tracks. And I did that preparing it. A guy named Renee Moore came into that morning session.
Okay.
I don't know who Renee Moore is. I didn't put two and two together. That's Renee and Angela, one, and that Renee wrote on Jam.
Okay.
So I'm doing this. He goes, who are you? I said, I'm Jean-Marie. I said, he goes, I'm Renee. He goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm making a slave reel. He goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm making it sound right so Teddy can go and get with it. Because do you mind if I hear what you're doing? I said, well, yeah, sure. It's just a quick mix down. And he heard it and he ran out the room. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm fucking fired. The next thing I see was Renee, Bruce, Michael, and Teddy. Goes, play that joint. And they said, oh my God. And Michael turned around to me and goes, are you Italian? I said, no, I'm Croatian. But you look Italian, right? And he listened to it and he goes this. Bruce goes, this is wonderful. Give him all the tapes.
Wow.
I said, come again? He goes, give him all the tapes. Get him to start mixing. And that was it.
Wow.
That's how I got on the Michael project. Because I was thinking differently.
Wow. So you did the 7? Did you do the 7 tracks? Or did you have?
Yes. Yep. And at that time, Bruce pulled me off on the side. He said, "Look, we're not going to be able to give you mixed credit because of certain things." I said, "Bruce, I'm just happy to be here." He said, "But I am going to give you there's so much to this record that's." I thought I was going to get fired 3 times on this record, and Bruce pulled me off his side. He goes, "But we're going to give you some engineering credit." I said, "Fine, no problem." But Teddy always knew that me and Dave and Bruce and Teddy mixed those records of Teddy's.
Okay. But it's just the politics of how things are in those days, and it was like, you know, you're thinking about the pictures.
But I didn't mind it. I didn't mind it because I know what I did, you know, and I speak my truth, and people know the sound because people always take us. I see where Teddy got his sound from. The only difference was my 808s were a little bit louder than Bruce's, but Bruce, I understood why Bruce did that. He goes, so his philosophy was we save it for the remix because remixes were a lot of money back then.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why if you hear our Keep It in a Closet remix, that thing is phenomenal. And here's the other thing. Teddy gave me Teddy was the first person to give me my remix credit as a remixer.
Oh, so you did. Okay. Oh.
And I didn't know what the hell I was doing on the MP. I said, he goes, do you know what you're doing? I said, no.
So you just learning as you were going. Now, we knew there were 7 tracks that came out on the album, but were there more that you did that didn't make the album that you guys still worked on?
Yes. Someone Lay Your Hands Out.
Okay.
It was an amazing song. And Joy.
Did he actually record that? Because we tend to just hear the Blackstreet version. He actually made a version of that.
Incredible.
Wow.
Absolutely incredible. Michael was a perfection. And ain't nobody touching him. I don't care. And I've worked with so many great singers in my last 30 years or 20 some odd years.
Yeah.
No one's touching Mike. Nobody.
Was he
nobody?
When was he very hard working in the studios? I mean, was he considered? Was he? You know,
he was on point. He was on point. He was a consummate professional. But to get him in the studio to do vocals, especially when I was working with him on with Rodney on the Invincible record, he had to feel the right moment. Okay. And then when he felt it, he was on it. But this guy would turn around and leave the studio, and he'll be in Germany 6 hours later. You know what I'm saying? That's how it was. We thought he was going to come back. He didn't come back at all.
Yes, it did. But it took, after a while, you forget that he is Moonwalker Michael Jackson and just sort of see him as a singer and just focus on the work.
He can do anything he wants.
Okay. So, you finished it. Did you guys get nominated for a Grammy on the Dangerous album for engineering?
We did.
Okay. How did that feel?
Well, they did. I didn't.
Oh, they didn't.
Mind you, the politics.
Yeah. Okay.
That changed. If that was today, we would all got a little bit.
Okay. So you finished the Michael stuff. What are your folks thinking about the family that you 1 minute you're learning in the studio, and
you don't want to. You don't want to. My mother said to go get a real job.
Oh, even when you were telling her that you were mixing for Michael Jackson, she didn't think it was anything?
Right.
Okay. Okay.
Exactly.
So you finished the Michael stuff. How long did that take you guys when you're out in LA?
We were actually finishing up some of the mixes out in Virginia Beach, and then we were sending everything out to Bruce. And then Bruce finished it up, I think it was September.
Okay.
September, October.